Our scripture lesson for Easter 2021 is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. Hear this good news. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, "Who will roll away the stone away from the entrance of the tomb?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you." Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. So the ending of the Gospel of Mark is a mystery. The other Gospels, they continue on with the story and the post-resurrection experiences, but the Gospel of Mark ends it there. They said nothing because they were afraid. So it is a bit of a mystery why Mark would end his Gospel like he did. However, as I reflect upon this Gospel and the end of this story, it seems fitting for Easter 2021. The reason is because Mark did not write the end of the story, and because there is no clear ending, that means that we are here to continue the story. And we are able today to take that story written so many years ago and incorporate ourselves in it and allow that story to continue to write itself in us. So let's start at the beginning when it says the Sabbath was over. For the Jewish tradition, Sabbath, Shabbat, is the evening, a sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday. So that is the Sabbath. So when the Sabbath was over, Jesus was crucified on Friday afternoon. So they did not have time before Shabbat, before Sabbath, to prepare his body properly. This tells you how, even though Jesus was one who tried to help them to transcend many of their Jewish traditions, how very Jewish they all still were. So they did not have a chance to prepare his body for burial. So early Sunday morning, after the Sabbath was over, the women were heading toward the tomb to be able to finish this process. And this is very important in their tradition. And while they were on their way, they were discussing among themselves who would turn the big stone over so that they could go inside the tomb. And lo and behold, as they walked to where the tomb was and where they had laid his body, they saw the stone was out of the way, out of the opening. And so they were able to go in. So they were overjoyed the fact that now they had access. But when they walked inside, it all changed very abruptly. They walked inside and Jesus' body was not there. And there was a man dressed in white saying, "He's not here. The one that you're looking for is not here. He's risen. And he's gone on ahead of you. So go on to Galilee and meet him there just as he told you he was. So go tell his disciples and tell everybody that he's risen and he will meet you because he's gone on ahead to Galilee where he's going to meet you there." So they had access to where Jesus had been, but what they were hoping to be able to bury was no longer there. And they also got the good news that Jesus had gone ahead of them. Now, who rolled the stone away? The story doesn't really tell us specifically, so that allows us to use our imagination. And so as you know me, I'm the one who not just looks at the words on the page, but I also like to look at the spaces between the words and the spaces between the letters. What are the mystical implications here? What are the symbolisms and things that we can learn from this story to help us on our own spiritual journey? And so for me, who rolled the stone away? For me, that is God. That is the divine. Because God is one who seems to have a habit of surprising us, but also moving obstacles out of our way so that we can have access to where we've been and also to where we need to go. So the women were thrilled at first that they had access to where they had laid Jesus' body. But it quickly turned into bewilderment and fear. Because when they entered in, what was not there anymore. And that seems to be the story of the last year, is it not? COVID-19 has turned not only our lives, but the whole world upside down. What was is not here anymore. I remember last year when I preached to an empty sanctuary, like I am now. And it was such a difficult experience for me because I went into the church like it has always been, and when I got there, what wasn't true anymore. It's like walking into that empty tomb. And for those who worship with us on Sundays, you know that it's Christmas Eve and it's Easter, that our sanctuary is packed and the energy is incredible and children are restless and people are dressed to the nines and it's just a joyous occasion having so many people here all packed in celebrating Easter. And when I preached to the empty tomb or the empty sanctuary, so to speak, last year, it was all I could do to keep from crying. I felt like Father Mackenzie preaching a sermon that nobody would hear. There was nobody in the sanctuary but me. And for me, that was like the real reality check that, oh my God, the world has really changed. The world has really changed. Am I preaching to an empty tomb? But you see, God doesn't create an ending without a new beginning. And the huge stone of COVID-19 now is being rolled away. And life is starting to emerge once again. Resurrection is taking place all around us. And the messenger for the women has the same message for us. The same message for us. And that is, he's not here. He has risen, and he's gone on ahead of you to meet you in Galilee, just like he told you. So go tell your disciples and Peter that this has happened. Jesus has moved on. Jesus has moved ahead. Jesus is already letting people know where they can find him. God cannot be contained in anything because God is too great for that. God cannot be contained in the Holy of Holies of the old temple. Christ cannot be contained in a tomb. But that spirit of life and that spirit of energy and that spirit of enlightenment is so powerful that it is able to burst out of those things which try to bind them and hold them in and to move ahead and to move on. So Jesus has moved on, but he has not abandoned us. It's not like Jesus left us behind. Jesus has just moved ahead, and we will do post-COVID what we have always done. We will be open to his spirit, we'll be open to his presence, we'll be open to his words and his messages, we'll listen to our intuition, we will meditate, we will pray, and we will go where he leads us. We will go where he says to meet him. and we will do it. But the question we now have to ask ourselves is this: who are we going to be from this day forward? What do we need to hold on to that's really good about who we are? But the fact that we haven't met together for over a year now, will that change us? Will that change the energy? Will that change the dynamic in some way? Who are we going to become? What are we going to be now that the Sabbath is over? And in the story, the women told no one because they were afraid, but obviously eventually they told somebody, because here we are year after year on Easter Sunday telling this story. So even though right now times might be bewildering, maybe it's even been traumatic, maybe even some of us are still afraid, regardless, who we are, who we have been, who we shall become, will continue to move forward, because He who inspires us, He who enlightens us, His Spirit of Christ is still moving on, moving ahead of us, telling us where to meet Him, where to follow Him, and we will do it, because that is who we are. That's who we have been, that's who we are, and that's who we are going to continue to be. Who do we become after shelter in place? And what will emerge? And who we become may be different than who we were. But that's okay. That's healthy. As I've shared with you in the past, I believe one of the key ingredients, one of the key characteristics of the Windermere Union Church collectively is our ability to adapt. Look, I shared with you a story about how when our church used to be located in the town of Windermere on a little piece of property and a little white church building, and it was there for a long time. And we decided that we had outgrown the space, and we took the leap to recreate ourselves on another piece of land and in another building. And it was quite a risk. And for many years, it was a very difficult journey. Many people did not make the transition from that place to where we are now. Why? Because they held on so tightly to what the church was. Their connection to the Windermere Union Church and what defined the Windermere Union Church for many of them was this. It was the building and the memories and the events that took place in that building. It was that piece of land located in the town of Windermere and all that it meant and the history, and not discounting that in any way, but they could not let go of what had been to be able to embrace what was to become. It was a huge transition for us in 2006, and it seems to me that we have once again come to a place of huge transition. The Sabbath is over. The COVID stone is being rolled away. We've not seen or met with each other in person for over a year. We've continued to do ministry, but we've not been able to do it in person. We continue to love people, to teach and to instruct and to support and to celebrate with one another, but we've not been able to do it with hugs and shaking hands and greeting each other on Sunday morning. Who we were may be different than what we become. Look at the Bible stories, the different ones. In this one in Mark, the women hear the messenger and they run away and they flee and they tell no one. And in the other gospel stories, they hear the story, they run and go tell the disciples, and Peter and John, the one whom Jesus loved, run to the tomb. Also, in the story of Gospel of John, it talks about how Mary, seeing who she thought was the gardener, pleaded with him, "Oh, please, 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 where have you taken him? If you just tell me where you have taken his body, I will go and retrieve it and bring it back." And that person she thought was the gardener was Jesus. And when he called her by name, she recognized him. And she ran up to embrace him, only to have him to stop her. Because you see, she was wanting to embrace the Jesus that was. But the Jesus that was present before her was the one who had transcended pain and suffering, the Jesus who had transcended death, the Jesus who had transcended culture and religion, the Jesus who had transcended it, the Jesus who was pure light, life, and energy. She could not embrace what once was. So the challenge for us as the Windermere Union Church is, what do we need to hold on to, and what do we need to let go? This is a time of transition. How it's going to turn out, I don't know. But what I do know is this: the tomb is empty. The stone is rolled away. The Sabbath is over. And Jesus has gone ahead of us to meet us. And so we must be diligent to follow the lead of that Spirit and allow it to take us to where God wants us to be next. There is a movie and a series that I watch every time I feel like I am about to meet a challenge in leadership. The series is Band of Brothers. It was done by HBO, and it was about World War II paratroopers in Easy Company. And the movie was Dances with Wolves. And I watched them both recently to remind me of what it means to lead, even during difficult times, to be willing to take the risk to evolve and transition when the temptation may be to hold on and to keep everything the same. And I was watching Dances with Wolves this last time. It was the ending of the movie that really caught my attention and that my focus really honed in on. The story is about a Union soldier named Lieutenant John Dunbar, who went out west because he wanted to see the frontier before it disappeared. And while he was out in the frontier by himself, he connects with a tribe of Native Americans in the Sioux Nation, and he starts slowly evolving and becoming more human. As he is moving with this group to their winter camp, he realizes that he kept a journal at the old soldiers' fort, and if the new Union soldiers were to come and find this journal, it would put the whole tribe into danger. So he goes back to the soldier fort to retrieve his journal, only to find that indeed they had sent soldiers out there, and you can see they shoot. Well, I won't give it away if you haven't seen it, but anyway, they eventually take him, they put him in shackles, and now they're going to take him away to put him in prison. And on his journey to be taken away, to be imprisoned, his new friends rescue him, and they liberate him. And when he joins his people once again, not as Lieutenant John Dunbar, but Dances with Wolves, when he joins it, it was an incredible reunion and Thanksgiving because they loved him as much as he loved them. And they were thrilled to have him back. And the scene that really caught me this time was John Dunbar, after being back for a little while, was sitting in the teepee with the other men of the tribe with Tin Bears, the chief. And he brought up the fact that he is now a wanted man, and that the soldiers see him as the worst kind of traitor, and that they will stop at nothing. They will stop at nothing to find him and to kill him. And to find him is to find this community of people that he was now so connected with, so that he would be leaving when the snow stops. And of course, there was an outrage of the people then because they loved him, and the fact he just got back and they were worried about him and what he's going to go, and the noise, and then Tin Bear sends everybody out of the teepee except for John Dunbar. And for Tin Bears, there were two simple things in life that just couldn't get much better: a good fire and a smoke on a pipe. And so he hands John Dunbar, Dances with Wolves, the pipe, and he says to him, "I have to disagree with what you said. The person that the soldiers are looking for no longer exists, because I am sitting here with Dances with Wolves, and they will never find the person that you used to be because he no longer exists. And the reason why that story resonated so deeply within me is because it's a part of our evolving and becoming whole and becoming complete. It is a part of our salvation, sozo, to become whole, to become complete, to heal and to be liberated. That's salvation. And the temptation is to hold on to what was because it feels comfortable. But sometimes life and the world causes it to change whether we want it to or not. But here's what I also know about my own life journey, and especially with the Windermere Union Church, who's become my tribe, is that when it's time to transition, what we try to hold on to is not there anymore. The tomb is empty. And there are no more obstacles for us because God rolls the stone away. Resurrection is not only real for Jesus, but resurrection is a reality for all of us here right now. We have nothing to fear because God rolled the stone away and Jesus walks ahead of us. And God is giving us the freedom to continue to write our story as people of faith, as followers of Jesus. And with every ending, there is a new beginning. So, my friends, let us begin. Thus ends the lesson, and peace to you all. I love you, I miss you, and we will get our tribe back together again. Peace to you all.